What are your ideas to balance the district's projected financial shortfall?
That's a difficult issue because I don't have access to all of the information. One of the ideas that I have been proposing is that we attempt to do major improvements to all of our buildings as far as efficiency. I would like to see us do upgrades and take advantage of some of the grants and the incentives that are out there to improve the efficiency of our buildings through possibly alternative energy sources like solar or wind, maybe instituting the use of geothermal conditioning units to help lower the costs on our pools, our building conditioning, which would be heating and cooling. Exploring the possibility of using gray water recovery systems to lower our costs on water. I'm sure Huron Valley takes a lot of pride in the way they maintain their athletic fields and their grounds, but pumping fresh water or city water to constantly do something like that could be an expense that could be avoided. So the biggest thing I can find financially right now, outside of exploring closing another building, is making sure our buildings are as energy efficient as possible. If we can become a green district, a truly green energy efficient district that takes advantage of the programs that are out there currently and maybe in the future, we could probably realize enough cost savings to where we could significantly reduce our financial shortfall and redirect funds from continuous savings from these improvements, which are long-term. These are forever savings that we could put into education.
Thank you. The district's shortfall. This is a great question, a question of finance that some of our candidates are extremely versed on, and that's a great thing. We need grassroots groups of people lobbying Lansing and our legislators to bring a deep awareness of the inequity in school funding. I look at this a little bit differently. I think we have a cap. It's a glass ceiling that no one in Lansing has any indication they're going to change. So I think we need to make sure that we use our open enrollment policy to our benefit. We need to make sure that we are have a policy that is engaging, bringing students into our district. It needs to be bold and innovative. There are districts out there who are increasing their student population and bringing dollars into their district by having extensive programming, by utilizing their E2020 programming and using their certified teachers to teach the E2020, and then offering that E2020 program to students overseas to get an American education or American high school diploma through that district. We need to be innovative and bold. Our programming needs to be top-notch, and we need to be making decisions within the district that bring students into our district instead of pushing them out the door. We need to engage our open enrollment policy to the full extent that we can. Thank you.
In the last 8 years, Huron Valley Schools has had to cut nearly $31 million from its budget based on declining funding given to us by the state. In addition, the way that funding is used is broadening to include community colleges as well as higher education, which means that not only is the bucket a smaller bucket to fund from, but now we're using to fund more sources from. So the first way that we need to work on the budget inequities is we really need to continue to fight. We need to fight this fight with Lansing. We need to make sure that we are fighting for fair funding. 28 school districts within Oakland County. We are the 6th largest district, but we're funded 24th. In the 24th to the 28th position, there's only a $100 difference in terms of the funding that's there. However, right next door in Walled Lake Schools, they get nearly $1,300 per student more than we do, which is about $13 million a year in additional funding. It doesn't cost any more to educate a child in Walled Lake than it does to educate a child in Huron Valley. we should all be able to get fair funding for our own children and be able to provide the same services and the same opportunities. However, that being said, while we're continuing to fight for fair funding, we need to be able to take advantage of, look at everything from a financial perspective. We need to make sure that all of our contracts are competitive. Food service, custodial, transportation, and teaching contracts, all of them have willingly come up to the table, have taken concessions mid-contract. The teaching staff has taken now 2 sets of concessions. So it's a misnomer if people feel that our staff and our community is not contributing, because they are. However, we need to then focus on, we need to be able to focus on things like the E-2020 programs, additional technology. Again, the E-2020 I think needs to be reworked, needs to be used in conjunction with the teacher, not in replace of. But if we think about what we all thought about the computer 20 years ago, replacing people, and we just found ways to work with the technology to increase our production and to take everything to the next level, that's really what I do for the school district.
Well, it's the financial shortfall is really a tough one that we have to wrestle with. Many people may or may not know, but school boards are actually obligated by law to balance the budget. So when we go through and approve a budget, it has to be balanced. So we need to go through and look at not only expenses but also revenues. I think what we need to do is we need to try to start looking at the revenue side. We've spent a whole lot of time on going through and looking at the expense side and the cost side. I don't know how diligent we've been for trying to get grants and for trying to go through and get funding, or going through and doing pilot programs to go through and put in new education, new innovative ideas, to use technology to go through and improve our education system, but yet at the same time go through and be able to reduce costs. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity with the revenue side. On the side of the expenses and on cost, we need to continue to go through and look at the areas that we can reduce costs without hurting education and without going through and doing and adversely affecting the children. So it is a tough piece of it, because when you look at it, the budget of a school district is 70 to 80% of it is in wages and benefits, and that's always a tough issue, and it's something we have to continue to negotiate with our bargaining units to go through and try to reduce those costs and go through and still come to a good compromise as far as what still gets benefits and still makes it attractive to come to Huron Valley and work, but also at the same time to go through and have to be able to balance that budget and reduce it. I do think that while everybody, there's a lot of discussion on the equity of the amount we get per student, I think that's something that still needs to be looked at. One of the things I still would like Michigan to see Michigan do, I think we're one of the few states that hasn't, is go and actually say, what does it cost to educate a kid? Forget the level, what does it cost to get to our state level? And many states have gone through and done that. Then they need to go through and rebalance it and look at what needs to be done and figure out how they can go through. But actually, I read a quote from the governor that was talking about Detroit. He said, why should I think that it costs any less to educate a kid in Detroit than it does in Bloomfield Hills? So I think that there's a little bit of an awareness of that, and I think that's something that we need to do. The answer isn't just raise taxes or raise money. The answer is find out what's really needed and what's really required, and go through and try to do that to give the best education for the kids.